I believe, as Professor Keith just said, I know that there is no hazard. Things happen when they have to happen. I didn't know there was this wonderful first New York conference here. I didn't know. And I knew about Keith, I think, having met him sometime in Toronto. At one time I sent him one of my books. And then recently, because I was coming over here, there was an article in The Economist talking about the Asian Americans. So I read this and then I thought of Keith, and then I said, well, let me send this note to him. And I told him I was coming over here. And then he told me that Professor Keith was going to be here. And then I came to know that was this wonderful initiative of gathering the Hakka people. So things are happening at the right time. And I would wish you to know that as there's a sort of consciousness developing among the Hakka overseas, this phenomenon, you witness it not only here, but in practically all over the world. I think it's also because of the importance of Chinese economy, its position in the world today, that is drawing attention more and more to the Chinese people and to the Hakka people in particular, because strangely enough, recently, about 3 months ago, there was somebody who came from Beijing, a top guy, top official. He came to me, he said, well, we're interested in having a World Hakka Center in South Africa. And the purpose of which was to build a sort of network of all the Chinese diasporas in South Africa, Mauritius, Seychelles, Réunion, Madagascar, Rodrigues, and all those islands surrounded. And then after some time, Tori came to me, he said, no, we have decided to create this in Mauritius. And now they are buying a piece of land. They are going to build a Tulu, but it's not the round one, or it could be the square one, and more probably would be the sort of semicircular half moon type one. So there's something going on there. And you are having this first thing here. So now I should also perhaps add something else. Some years ago, when UNESCO was trying to put up memorials all over the region to remind us of the origins of slaves that were brought from Africa from different places. So UNESCO had memorials built in several places, about 7 or 8 countries where the slaves were brought to the region. This exercise was completed. So UNESCO then decided to have a series of memorials to commemorate the arrivals of workers, laborers, indentured laborers, workers, Chinese, Indians, and all that. And UNESCO had built memorials, put memorials in different places. And the last place then was India, where they put up a memorial. After that, the man responsible for the project, somebody who lives on Réunion Island, he came to me and said, well, for 2 years we've been trying to get into contact with China. We want to build a memorial in China. He hasn't been able to do it. He has no contacts. He came to me, and as I had contacts already with the University of Mauritius, where I've been giving talks and all that. So I talked to the professors there. They said, okay, well, wonderful, let's do it. So we identified a plot of land. So we went there. But then, when it was becoming such a big project, so the professor said, well, it's not a university thing, we have to go to government. So I went to see the mayor of Mauritius. We talked, and then sometime later he told me, when I went back there, he said, we have another idea. The place you have identified may not be the right place. We have another place in mind. Without having seen that place, he said to me, what do you think about it? I said, yes, immediately. Because he knew better than me because he was there in China. So the place identified is Chungkeo in Hakka, Songkhao in Uruguay. And so exactly 1 year later, we had this memorial, and it was inaugurated by my minister, I brought my minister there, the head of the Réunion Island, and we have a wonderfully magnificent place because the idea was also simply to put this in place, a memorial happy to be looked after, but the Chinese, they are grand designers, great administrators, so put it in the right place on the riverbank, near an old immigration office. It's we're full of history of Sanko, which survived there, and then there was an emperor's son who fled to that place. So, and then this sad, very sad thing, you cry when you look at this. Because all the Chinese, they came from different places, and then they arrived in small boats of walking night and day. They arrived in Songkheu, and in Songkheu there were small boats that could carry some 20 people, and they were taken down they were taken to Swatow. And they left their family, their wives in those places. I went there a couple of months ago. I've been there several times, a couple of months ago, and they've reconstituted all the sparse history, all the, if you call them cafes, but Chinese don't have cafes, the tea shops all over the place. And in fact, it's very moving. So this has been done. And incidentally, so when he came to me, I am at the head of this Chinese diaspora and heritage. So we built this one. And then researching history, I also discovered that the first Chinese to arrive in the Indian Ocean was not 18th century. The very first Chinese to leave, they were prisoners captured in the Chinese Dutch wars. Because you know at one stage Formosa was occupied by the Spanish. Then the Dutch came in. It was all about this question of getting spices and bloods and all that. So the Chinese were caught, and then I found this out. I went to my minister, I was no longer minister myself, so I went to the Minister of Culture. I said to him, we have to do something. So in that place where the Dutch landed, so now we've built a memorial, because I found out that the Chinese arrived there more than 350 years ago. It was on the 1st of May 1654, the Chinese landed there. So Chinese came out long before the other people from the east, so 1654. There are so many things to say, but let me perhaps say something about the Chinese sort of, you see, I just I've been listening to Professor Jack talking about all this racism, in fact. This is what it's all about. And there was a governor who was somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago, I think. I may be mistaken, or Jamaica, but it was from that region. He came to Mauritius. He became governor, British governor of Mauritius. And he said something. He says, the Chinese are the real citizens of the world. They do not hesitate to take their wives anywhere, and they recognize the children that they have. And like some other people, they have children, and then they forget them. The Chinese are responsible. And he added, he said, Chinese are not averse to marrying wives anywhere, and like the Indians, who did not like to have wives or families mixed with other races. Because something is very important here. If you're going to talk about racism, there is a Canadian writer who has compared British racism and French racism. The British racism, that is when somebody who doesn't like somebody who is black, there's nothing doing. He may have a friend he likes, but as a race he doesn't like. Whereas the French, whatever color you are, if you have mastered the French language, or you understand the culture, you are one of them. Now the Chinese is a bit like that. I think if you call it racism or discrimination based for the Chinese, it's more cultural. It's not color, cultural. If you speak a language, because my mother was not 100% Chinese, but she spoke Chinese, so she was integrated, accepted. This is from my childhood. I can look at this, and then my wife's father, when her mother died, she married an African lady. It was so you see, the Chinese don't make, they look at you with your culture serialized. This is the most important thing. So broadly speaking, then I think I'm taking too much of your time, but simply I have to add this. I was talking earlier about the center, the World Hakka Center. So the guy is not going to build it in South Africa, they're going to do it in Mauritius. So I've been telling the professor just now, between us, there's something which should take place. We have already this personal academic connection. We have to go further. We have to do something more. And one of the things that just occurred to me this morning when I woke up, I said to myself, a professor like him, I would like to have him as the honorary president of our group in Mauritius. So this will be the tangible link between us already on all our sort of papers. We'll write honorary president, Professor Kithlo. So this will be the link between us. So this is it. I was thinking of, I've been able finally to sort out this technical problem I had. Where is that? I wanted to read these two poems to you. Yes. Two sonnets, not long, because I'm used to writing sonnets. As many of you know, sonnet is a 14-line poem with 3 quatrains and a couplet. Okay. So I wrote, I have been having hundreds of them, with published and all that, but these two on Chinatown. Today, throughout the world, there's no city where you don't find a Chinatown. Starting in places where they first arrive, I mean, all the Southeast Asian countries. There they settle as businessmen and brought their cuisine, medicine, and way of life. Some were shanghaied and drafted overseas as prisoners or indentured laborers to build roads and railways, toil in gold mines, slave in cotton or sugar plantations, in Africa and the Americas, but they survive and build their Chinatowns. Thus, long before the Chinese embassies, Chinatowns were showcases of Han Law. This is the first one. I have a second one. Where is it now? Okay. Overseas Chinese. Yes. We know Huaren, the overseas Chinese, and all their descendants they call Huai have always been, wherever they settle, hardworking, peace-loving, law-abiding. Their Han culture followed them everywhere. Hard work, self-reliance, keeping one's word, respect for others, and never lose faith, each one aiming to be a role model. They won't demand any special treatment, never impose their religious beliefs, or live as parasites on state welfare. Never complain, but fight on in silence. Our forefathers were indeed torchbearers of a humane and most peaceful culture. Thank you.